Thank you, ma'am. I'll invite Miss Uma to give start our 1 second. Okay. I'm so sorry. There was some technical error from my side. Okay. I request Miss Uma to start with the session for today. Uma, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. Can somebody confirm if I'm audible?
Yeah, you are audible, Uma.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Center for Excellence in Maritime Studies, I'm delighted to extend a warm welcome to all our esteemed guests, speakers, and participants. We've gathered today for this webinar to celebrate the 59th National Maritime Day, highlighting India's maritime prowess. Now I call upon our beloved Dean Science and Technology and Director CMAS, Dr. Anuradha Mazumdar, Madam, to deliver the welcome note. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Uma. A very good morning to all from the Center of Excellence in Maritime Studies, CMAS, and welcome to the webinar on India's maritime prowess. Celebrating the 59th National Maritime Day, we are indeed privileged to have amongst us the chief guest, Mrs. H.K. Joshi, Chairman and Managing Director of Shipping Corporation of India. Welcome, ma'am, and thanks a lot for accepting our invitation. Our very own dear guest of honor, Professor Ravindra Kulkarni, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor of our university, and one of the visionaries behind the CMAS. Keynote speaker, Commodore Srikant Kesnoor, Indian Navy. Speakers of the day, Captain Alok Srivastav, Dr. B.B. Nayak, Captain Rikesh Sharma, and other dignitaries. Head of the departments, faculty members from CMAS and other departments and centers and affiliated colleges, scientists. We also have a few journalists who have joined us today from Deccan Herald and other dailies. And my very dear students of CMAS, Sindhu Swadhyay, Sanstha, and other colleges. Before we start the day, let us begin by remembering Dr. P. Sekhar. I would request Mansi to kindly project Dr. P. Sekhar's profile. Mansi, can you raise this or lessen the size? Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. Dr. P. Sekhar, Chairman of Microtech Global Foundation and several other organizations he's associated with. Alumnus of our very own Department of Physics of the university. Author of 70 books on smart cities, blue economies, secure techno-economic growth with respect to IT securities. We lost him on 29 January this year, 2022. He was very much associated with Center of Excellence in Maritime Studies. CMAS had signed an MOU through the University of Mumbai with Microtech Global Foundation to expand the applications of blue economy. He was also one of the mentors for our students. And I'm sure our students like Uma, who just spoke, and others would remember that Dr. P. Sekhar gave the first talk in the induction program when we started with SEM 1 of our MA, MSc, and MCom program. There were a few messages from his family after his demise. We all die. The goal is not to live forever. The goal is to create something that will. His family informed that there should be no condolences, sadness expressed on his demise. He left the world a happy person, being an optimist, a utopian, and wanted good things for all at all times. With this, I request all to let us observe 1 minute silence in remembrance and paying homage to Dr. P. Sekhar. Thank you. Mansi, I request you to kindly remove the projection. We all at CMAS have fond memories of Dr. P. Sekhar. I still remember his morning messages, which were all motivating and related to maritime and other domains, were a good start to our days. India is a country with a coastline of 8,000 kilometers, more than 1,000 islands. On this note, I still remember Dr. P. Sekhar in his first presentation spoke about how many Singapore-like islands India as a country can create and model. And that was an eye-opener for many of us. Nearly 200 ports and oceanic exclusive economic zone of more than 2 million square kilometers, which accounts for 70% of our land area. We have a great maritime heritage, which traces back 5,000 years ago to the Indus Valley civilization. Regarding the National Maritime Day, which we are celebrating the 59th year, while this day, 5th April, began to be celebrated in the National Maritime Day as a National Maritime Day from 1964 onwards, it commemorates an event that happened on 5th April 1990. I thank Commodore Kesner for some inputs on this day. This day celebrates a brave act when on 5th April 1919, pre-independence, the first Indian-owned ship, SS Loyalty, of the Scindia steamship navigation journeyed from Mumbai to London. This was a landmark occurrence because the shipping routes, the companies, the trade, and indeed the oceans were dominated by the British. Here was a Swadeshi shipping company started by 4 courageous Indians, Walchand Hirachand, Narottam Morarji, Lalubhai Samaldas, Kilachand Devchand, who challenged, and this entire endeavor which challenged the British monopoly over ocean navigation. So salute to these people who brought and who probably regained and retold to the globe, to the world, about India's maritime prowess, which continues. The maritime domain is a dynamic space offering multitude of both challenges and opportunities to its users, which our Pro-Vice Chancellor Sir as well as Joshi ma'am will speak about. The seafaring community is a diverse bunch of professionals with specific niche capabilities and different job requirements operating in the globally connected oceans. Center for Excellence in Maritime Studies, CMAS, envisions to provide manpower through our postgraduate, our PG diploma, and our PhD programs, along with what we are starting from this year, 22-23, an executive MA in Maritime and Management Studies with Naval War College for naval officers and allied officers. So with this, I request Mansi, we have prepared a 2-minute short audio-visual on CMAS, the progress and inception and the progress. Kindly spare these 2 minutes to listen, to watch this audio-visual. Mansi, the music is not coming, the sound. So as you can see, we have eminent faculty. We've leveraged on the best of faculty, the current background of our students, wide spectrum. We also have one person who is from a Coast Guard background who has joined CMAS in the MA program. These are the MSc, MA, Mamcom research projects. We have mini and major projects. Our students visit to the Naval Dockyard and the Heritage Center, the beating retreat of the Navy, several webinars and seminars which we've already conducted across this 1 year since its inception and inauguration by Honorable Chancellor and Governor, Honorable Koshyari ji. Thank you. Unfortunately, you could not hear the voice and the sound doesn't matter. I gave the voiceover sort of. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. And this is what CMAS is endeavoring for. And as Joshi ma'am said, we are also trying to provide trained, skilled manpower through our postgraduates and our doctoral students who would add value to this industry across all verticals. And that is the reason CMAS is a transdisciplinary center with humanities, with that is the arts and various aspects under it, science and technology, and also commerce and trade. And that is the USP of Center for Excellence in Maritime Studies. Thank you very much. Welcome again. Over to you, Mansi.
Thank you, ma'am. I call upon Uma to introduce our Pro-Vice Chancellor. Uma.
I now welcome Honorable Pro-Vice Chancellor of Mumbai University, Professor Ravindra Kulkarni, to address the audience. Over to you, sir.
Kulkarni,
Sir,
sir.
you are muted, sir.
Okay. Very good morning to all. The chief guest of this National Maritime Day celebration function, Mrs. Doshi Madam, Chairman and Managing Director, the Shipping Corporation of India, all the keynote speakers and the different speakers for this National Maritime Day function, as well as Professor Anuradha Muzumdar, the Dean Science and Technology, as well as the in-charge director of Center of Excellence in Maritime Studies, all the faculty members and the students of the Center of Excellence in Maritime Studies, as well as the my dear audience. Let me extend the best wishes on the occasion of this National Maritime Day. In fact, this year, as being pointed out, this will be a 58th edition of National Maritime Day. And in fact, if you look at the first celebration which took place in the year 1964, from there onwards, the awareness about intercontinental maritime commerce and its impact on the economy, that awareness started increasing. And really with that, we could now dedicate this Maritime Day to the role of maritime trade in the development of the Indian economy, with identification of blue economy as a thrust sector by Government of India. And as well as we would like to identify this Maritime Day in reference to the role of India and its strategic location in a global trade. In fact, we would understand the inevitability of defending, shielding, and serving our maritime zone, as well as to recognize the importance of shipping safety, maritime security, and the sustainable maritime environment while celebrating this Maritime Day. When we talk about the overall maritime trade by volume or percentage in terms of value, okay, so roughly 95% of the country's trade, or 70% in terms of value, is through maritime sector. that, of course, we have a very vast maritime maritime coastline of 7,500 kilometers, and the University of Mumbai is connected to 720 kilometers of this particular coastline. And that is the reason why University of Mumbai thought it to start the Center of Excellence in Maritime Studies, so as to have a real contribution of the university to the growing maritime economy, maritime science, maritime engineering, as well as maritime commerce, and at the same time to promote the right understanding of maritime history, and at the same time to promote a very good understanding about the global relations and strategic points with reference to maritime coastline boundaries. In fact, to promote India's shipping and port industry, the government has introduced various fiscal and non-fiscal initiatives for enterprises that develop and maintain and operate ports, inland waterways, and shipbuilding in India. As far as issues of international geopolitical economy is concerned, the Indian Ocean Rim definitely appears to be of a strategic importance and really multipolar. If you look at the geopolitical economy of Indian Ocean Rim, then we look at the various regional economic powers, like including in India. Besides India, we can say we see Australia, Indonesia, Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, and others like Iran. And together, these 9 countries represent 72.9% of the total regional gross national product and 78% of the regional exports. So we definitely expect a lot of increasing importance of the Indian Ocean countries engaging in international trade with distant neighbors, increasing volume of the bird goods. And really, if you just talk about the overall trade of China itself, like over US dollar 100 billion of China's trade alone passes through the Indian Ocean annually. That, of course, besides maritime trade, of course, it becomes a matter of definitely a maritime security as well. And probably we find so many plannings across that, and government of India itself is coming with different the different sectors to open as far as maritime trade is concerned. So let us right now we stand at 9% of probably global trade as far as maritime trade is concerned. We like to see a significant rise in a near future, so that the maritime economy will really contribute to the overall economy of our countries. And let us see, with that, the right academics at our Center of Excellence in Maritime Studies, in right tune with the research as well as right connectivity with the industries, the Center of Excellence in Maritime Studies will definitely support, will extend its best support to the overall research in maritime sectors itself. So I again extend my thanks for inviting me to be the part of this function, and extend my best wishes on the occasion of National Maritime Day. I extend my hearty welcome to Madam Doshi Madam for accepting our invitation to be the chief guest of this function. Thanks to you. Thanks to all. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you, sir. Kulkarni sir, would you like to, as the chair of the inaugural session, would you like to introduce our chief guest, Mrs. H.K. Joshi? Kulkarni sir.
Let us say,
can you hear? Kulkarni sir, can you hear us? I think sir's connectivity is broken. We'll just wait for a minute.
Sir cannot hear us.
Kulkarni sir, can you hear us?
Sir?
Is he there?
He is there, but there is a connectivity issue from his side, ma'am.
Kulkarni sir, can you hear us? His
Sir?
presence is seen in the list.
Yeah, he is there.
Yeah. Sir, requesting you to kindly introduce our chief guest.
In fact, I have started introducing already. Let me extend a warm welcome to Mrs. Doshi Madam, who is holding the position of.
Sir, we are not able to hear you.
Dr. Anuradha, can I come to your rescue in some way and we'll proceed with the program? Because I don't think really a formal introduction is required for me. Anybody who would want to know more specifics about me, all my details are there on the website of the Shipping Corporation of India. And I think that will help all the students also to go to the website of Shipping Corporation and learn more about Merchant Navy and the role that the National Shipping Company is doing for the country. So with that,
You're being very gracious. But still, I think Professor Kulkarni is having a connectivity issue there because his voice is coming broken. So I will do the honors of introducing you. So we have amongst us chief guest, Mrs. H.K. Joshi, Chairperson and Managing Director, Director of Finance, Additional Charge of Shipping Corporation of India. Mrs. Joshi has close to 4 decades of corporate experience and 7 years of board level experience. She's the chairperson of 2 other companies, in addition to being on the board of as I said, of various board of 7 other companies, while also being on various board committees. She also holds the additional charge of Director of Finance in the Shipping Corporation of India Limited. She started her career as a lecturer in Delhi University and later joined the corporate world in 1984. She's a finance professional with a passion for management, and her eye for excellence and business acumen demonstrated in her leadership won her various laurels, recognitions, and awards. Her strategic vision, accompanied with aptitude for risk-taking, contributed to creating a landmark achievement in the national and global maritime history when a first ever all-woman officers sailing was executed on board the tanker MT Swarna Krishna on 7th March 2021, which is hailed as a historic event, making the nation proud, being the first ever merchant cargo vessel to have achieved this feat. Congratulations, madam. As a woman also, salute to you. A passionate leader with high standards of work ethics, she has sailed across, sustaining through the uncertain times and continually outperforming previous standards of excellence. We are really elated to have you with us, ma'am, and looking forward to hearing you. All our students especially, you would be a role model and iconic figure for them. Thank you.
thank you, Dr. Anuradha, for that formal introduction. Professor Ravindra Kulkarni, Dr. Anuradha Majumdar, Dr. Mansi Shah, all the very distinguished and the esteemed speakers which I see have been lined up for today's program, faculty members, dear students, and all the attendees. A very good morning to all of you. First of all, I express my gratitude to the Center for Excellence in Maritime Studies, University of Mumbai, for giving me this opportunity to be able to address and interact with young students. Young minds are someone who always energize me. And personally, for me, coming back to an institution of learning is always a pleasure, as I believe that learning never stops. And I actually started my career with teaching. So that's why I always look forward to getting these opportunities to interact with budding professionals and young minds. These centers of excellence are, to my mind, the temples where knowledge grows. And Nelson Mandela has rightly said that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world, which is very much required today. So yes, education is the key to eliminate all problems. If you want to grow and be successful, then we all need to be truly educated, inverted commas. Speaking on this occasion thus gives me immense hope for the future of our country in the maritime domain. Like I had said when we were just interacting informally, that such an institute, a center of excellence, was very much the need of the hour for the maritime industry. While Dr. Anuradha and also Professor Kulkarni have already brought out the specifics of our maritime prowess, since we have a massive coastline of more than 7,500 kilometers, which is actually more than double the distance of around 3,000 kilometers between the north to south of Indian mainland. So our sea expanse is much more than the mainland, and it forms more than 1% of the global coastline. It is thus no surprise that India is home to the world's oldest known dock at 4,500-year-old Harappan port town of Lothal in Gujarat, where a massive maritime museum is now coming up to capture our rich maritime heritage, which will help the students of tomorrow. Now, while we all know that trade and civilizations have always thrived and flourished on the backbone of the maritime infrastructure, this is true not only in India but across the world. And by celebrating the National Maritime Day, which, as Dr. Anuradha had brought out, is the maiden voyage of the first Indian flag merchant vessel, SS Loyalty, from Mumbai to London on 5th of April 1919. We actually dedicate ourselves to develop the sector for a career which today has so less visibility in the market that the mass of the people staying away from the coast have hardly heard about merchant vessels. Preference for a career in merchant navy has gradually declined since 1980s, and that is why I'm very happy to be here to speak to you, to encourage you on the maritime industry. Previously, aspirants were drawn in by prospects of visiting various foreign lands and a handsome salary, but technology has played its nuance. That turnaround time is so quick now at ports, and efficiency is actually determined by the speed and efficiency with which the turnaround happens, because of which the attraction of seeing ports and cities is no longer available. In fact, the life for those on board vessels has got tougher. While technology is supposed to ease life, it's become tougher because now they don't get the breaks they used to get earlier. So I'm trying to bring out the reality, but not discourage you. It's to let you know that there is an industry which has a lot of prospect, as I will let you know. And I think the fresh talent and the young minds are required to transform and build the Indian maritime industry. Now, it's a maritime industry is a very big industry. It's got so much in it. While I am going to be talking about shipping, but seafaring is not the only career option actually. Interestingly, India has always been a seafaring nation with a glorious maritime legacy. We have about 2 lakh Indian seafarers and India is one of the largest seafarer supplying nation. Professor Kulkarni had said that more than 9% of the global seafarers leveraging the young demographic profile of India is there. However, that is not all. There are immense opportunities within the overarching maritime sector. The pivot, though, I will say, of the huge maritime ecosystem shall always be a ship. Around a ship, all the supporting ecosystems develop, without which, of course, shipping cannot thrive. Considering that without shipping, half the world would starve and the other half would freeze, it amplifies the fact that around 70% of the exempt trade by value and 95% of the exempt trade by volume is through oceans. So that will give you a fair idea of the importance of the industry. And just a few days back, our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji congratulated the nation for a momentous feat of surpassing $400 billion exports and said that it signifies the country's potential and capability, which again brings out the importance of the maritime, because the exports could not have happened without the shipping and the trade. As the government of India pursues export-led growth towards a Atmanirbhar Bharat and one of the top 3 global economies that we are, the importance of utilizing maritime prowess will only increase in the coming years. My dear students, this is to energize you that you are in the midst of a happening industry and are poised for a bright future. With focus on developing logistics infrastructure, the government is encouraging development and integration of the national waterways with the coastal and sea connecting vast hinterlands of India with the exempt gateway ports. To spur the logistics infrastructure, a seamlessly integrated maritime network, including multimodal terminals, ports, and other supporting logistics infrastructure, will usher in a new age with Gati Shakti and the unified logistic interface platform, which is being activated. An efficient and well-developed maritime infrastructure facilitating reduced logistic costs is the need of the hour, so that raw material and finished goods can enable our manufacturers, our MSMEs, our farmers, and other exporters to compete globally and fulfill our aspirations of being a 5 trillion economy. The industry today is in the midst of one of the largest technological revolutions. And while I'm talking about history, it's important to talk about the future, with blue economy and ocean governance gaining predominance, while we work towards a net zero carbon. With the growing concern about depleting natural resources and increasing environmental problems, the sustainability concept is gaining importance for operations. In this context, green shipping is increasingly being discussed, and the Indian shipping industry is aggressively evaluating various potential pathways to low carbon shipping. While 2030 targets can be met through operational measures and efficiencies driven by connectivity and data analytics and energy efficient designs, alternative fuels such as green hydrogen, green ammonia, e-methanol, and compatible engines will be required to get to the 2050 targets. I would also like to mention here that the Government of India has a Maritime Vision 2030. We are working towards ensuring a completely modern, globally competitive Indian maritime sector. The amendments which IMO have brought in for MARPOL relating to the energy efficiency requirements, these will come into effect from 1st of January 2023, and these will again be reviewed on 1st of January 2026 for further amendments to reach the net zero target. The progress must be achieved, however, strategically and holistically. The young minds here have scope for immense growth and opportunities, like I said earlier, to make the sector robust, if the maritime industry is to emerge more efficient, profitable, and sustainable than what it is today. And on the eve of the 59th National Maritime Day celebration, with the theme Propelling Indian Maritime to Net Zero, I am confident that together we shall take the maritime sector again to glorious heights that we've seen historically. Though global leadership in maritime sector is important, India can pave the progress in international trade, growth, and diplomacy. This decade may be India's, and maritime's may just be the key to unlock that potential and opportunity. I urge all the aspiring young professionals to be a part of this exciting journey towards a rewarding and fulfilling career in the maritime industry. Wishing all of you again a happy National Maritime Day. Thank you once again to Mumbai University for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your...
Professor
Ma'am.
Kulkarni, would you like to say something? We missed you that time. Is he there? Mansi, is he there with us?
Sir is not there, so must have left, ma'am.
Because of the connectivity issue.
Connectivity issue.
Yeah. Wonderful talk, ma'am. I think the vision which you have shown us, I think made us very upbeat about the legacy being continued and the glory of the Indian maritime prowess in continuation. Thank you so much. I think it was very holistic. I think the students who have attended this webinar and this inaugural session, this would have mooted, their interest in acquiring the skills and education in maritime studies and allied areas, and also take up careers and occupation in this area. And that's what, the Center for Excellence is all about, with our masters in, MA, MSc, MCom in maritime studies, which is as per NEP 2020 vision. It is trans and interdisciplinary. And also we are starting with a PG diploma in maritime logistics and trade, as well as a executive program with the Navy, and a PhD program, which will also be transdisciplinary. Thank you very much. I've taken over on behalf of our Pro Vice Chancellor, sir. I think there's a connectivity issue there. Thank you very much, ma'am, indeed. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Mansi, over to you for the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we are at the epilogue of our inaugural session. Before we move on to the next session, it is my privilege to deliver a vote of thanks. First and foremost, I would like to express my sincere gratitude towards Mrs. H.K. Joshi, Chairman and Managing Director of Shipping Corporation of India, who has spread time from her busy schedule, to grace this occasion. Ma'am, your speech was enlightening and inspiring. I'm sure many of your young learners has thought about maritime sector as their occupation, and not only just maritime sector, the various economics sector which are developing around the maritime sector. Definitely a young learner will have some chance, or they will think about taking up that economy sector as their career option. Next, I would like to thank our Pro Vice Chancellor and our beloved Director, Dr. Anuradha Majumdar and Professor Ravindra Kulkarni, to give a highlight about CMAS and the maritime domain of the India. Ma'am and sir, your speech were inspiring and enlightening. Further, I would like to express my sincere gratitude towards our keynote speaker, Commodore Shrikant Kreznur, other speaker, Captain Alok Srivastav, Captain Rikesh Sharma, Dr. Bibi Nayak, for their presence and gracing this inaugural session with their presence. I would also like to sincerely thank you, other faculty member from University of Mumbai who has joined and who has joined this session and give the value to this session with their presence. I would also like to express my thanks to our University Department of UCC, which is now called as DICT, for their technical support throughout the session. And I would also like to thank our audience and young learner who has participated on this day
very early. They are waiting from 9:30 to hear from all of you. Thank you for your patience. Now we will move on to our next session. That is our speakers, our keynote speaker. I would like to invite Dr. Anuradha Majumdar to give an introduction about our keynote speaker, Commodore Shrikant Kesur.
Joshi ma'am, if you have some time, I request you to stay back for at least the first talk. That is the keynote lecture by Commodore Srikant Kesnur. I'm sure you would like to hear him. He's as erudite just like you and has the vision which you also have for the country with respect to the maritime domain. Introducing Dr. Srikant, Commodore Srikant Kesnur, who's going to speak on Indian Navy's journey of self-reliance, Atmanirbharta, through indigenization. Commodore Srikant Kesnur has been one of the very important persons and pillars of support during the inception period of CMAS, along with Vice Admiral Sanjay Singh. And CMAS is indebted to their contributions during the foundation days. Thank you very much, Commodore Kesnur. He's an alumnus of the National Defense Academy, is a serving Navy officer with 36 years experience in many assignments. He has commanded 2 frontline warships, served as faculty in prestigious military institutions, and done a diplomatic tenure in East Africa. Deeply interested in naval and maritime history, he has been lead author, chief editor of 11 books and monographs. And ma'am, I would like to say he's also authored a Amar Chitra Katha magazine or book for the children to garner interest in maritime domain and also to showcase the maritime glory of India and the ancient maritime prowess along with the modern one. And it is excellent. Thank you, sir, for that, because I think we all as youngsters started by reading comic books and had phenomenal impact, you know, on our impressions about India, about our philosophy and other aspects. And several journals produced by the Navy. A PhD from University of Mumbai. He also holds 5 other postgraduate degrees in sciences and social sciences. He's currently the director of Maritime Warfare Center, Mumbai, as also the officer in charge of the Naval History Project. In fact, ma'am, sir is also involved in the Lothal project of the Navy, and I'm sure you can later interact with him regarding your interest in that. The CMAS students we've also been thinking that we'll take them to the Lothal Museum once it is ready. And we are looking forward to that. So over to you, Commodore Kesnur. You can project your screen and start the session. Thank you for your accepting to be the keynote speaker.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, I hope you can see me clearly.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor Anuradha, for that very generous introduction. Joshi ma'am, the CMD of SCI, Professor Ravindra Kulkarni, I believe he's not there because of connectivity issues, but Professor Anuradha, please convey my greetings to him. Professor Anuradha, the director of CMAS, my fellow panelists, speakers, and above all, dear students of CMAS, as well as all those who've come in today. It's wonderful to be able to speak to you all and to have the presence of some very distinguished people here, including Ms. Joshi and others. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that I'd like to tell you as we begin is, first and foremost, I'd like to thank Mumbai University and CMAS for giving me this opportunity to deliver the keynote address on this day. The National Maritime Day is very auspicious, and I have been writing about this for several years. So it's always great to join in the commemoration. And it's good to see that these celebrations are now spreading all over the country, or at least in several parts of the country. As I speak, I'd like to make one thing clear. While much of my talk is informed by my views and my experience as a Navy historian and by my own journey in the Navy, these are personally my views and they do not represent the official view of the Indian Navy. Thirdly, I would like to extend again greetings on the National Maritime Day, because both Professor Anuradha and the CMD ma'am brought out why in a country like ours, this day needs to be celebrated, because we in the maritime domain, and I'm sure Ma'am Joshi and I and others agree, often maritime represents beyond the horizon and doesn't figure much in national consciousness, despite the fact that all statistics, whether about trade, whether about areas, whether simply about length, coastline, all of that, and our own history, talk of how much the maritime has impacted us. I mean, it is no secret that we are the only country after whom an ocean is named. And yet, despite that fact, that maritime consciousness or maritime awareness in our country is constantly a work in progress, is something that we maritime professionals are always, sort of trying to fight or trying to make it better. And therefore, days like this are needed. Second, of course, as Professor Anuradha brought out, I think the people who made this possible, the story of SS Loyalty is simply brilliant. It's wonderful. I wonder why it's not been made into a movie. I'd like to write a book. And I call them, we call Tendulkar and Ganguly and Lakshman and Dravid as the Fab Four. I would think that Walchand Hirachand, Narottam Murarji, Lalbhai, Samandas, Kilachand Devchand were perhaps the original Fab Four. I mean, it was not simply, as I've written in my article, they were great nationalists, great patriots, but it was an act of supreme bravery, what they did, taking on the might of British. And today, in a great act of supreme irony and justice come date, the Mackinnon and Mackenzie building on Ballard Estate, which symbolized sort of British shipping, is located at the corner of the Walchand Hirachand Marg, the great man. So finally, in some ways, justice has been done. And I am particularly partial to Walchand Hirachand. I believe he's a great visionary, great nation builder. Everything that you see today from, or over the last few years, he built a shipping, firm in the Hindustan shipyard at Vizag, which is now building lots of ships. The Hindustan Aeronautics, the Hindustan, construction company, which is big into construction, the Premier Automobiles, the Ravelgon Sweets, Walchandnagar Industries. I mean, these are great visionaries, and I hope that this day gives us all the chance to commemorate many of the great heroes. And this is particularly apt when we celebrate Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, because they were great heroes who made our freedom possible in different ways. And freedom has to be seen in the context of our autonomy and agency to do a lot of things. And the autonomy, the need for autonomy in shipping routes was felt for long. V.O. Chidambaram in the early part of the last century, but I think it manifested beautifully in the sailing of SS Loyalty on the 5th of April, 1919. And we must celebrate this day. So what is that I'm going to talk about? One of the advantages about not having a PowerPoint presentation is that I can stop whenever you want and we can have question answers and things like that. But basically, I decided today that instead of having presentation and give lots of statistics, let me tell you the story, a story of Atmanirbharta, which has become a big theme now, and how the Indian Navy has been a pioneer in Atmanirbharta for a long, long time. And that's an interesting, very, very interesting story. And why do I call it an interesting story, ladies and gentlemen? It is this. I think some of you have recently seen this or heard about this serial called The Rocket Boys. And I'm not getting into the merits or otherwise. I've seen only some trailers and patches of it. But it puts into forefront one of India's great success stories in space or in atomic energy. Like that, just as India has had great success stories in atomic energy, in space, in agriculture revolution, and we talk a great deal about people who made it possible, Homi Bhabha, Vikram Sarabhai, M.S. Swaminathan. I would like to most humbly submit that the Indian Navy's growth story is something similar. It is a fantastic journey. It's a journey which surmounted several obstacles, and in many ways it is arguably been just as, if not more challenging than the other disciplines and the other domains that I'm talking about. I will get into the story in a bit, but let me break down some of the nuts and bolts that made this possible. First and foremost, what has happened? It is simply this, ladies and gentlemen, from a very small entity. Do remember that the Royal Indian Navy was the smallest of the three services at the dawn of independence. We had in all 33 or 34 ships, and calling more than 5 or 6 of them ships would have been foolhardy. They were actually small boats or big boats. I mean, they were not more than half a dozen sloops, and sloops those days were about 1,000-ton ships. I mean, by today's standards, they're very small. And these was the sort of ships that made the Indian Navy. From then, 75 years later today, to becoming one of the most formidable, one of the biggest navies in the world, to be able to have multi-domain specialization in aviation, in naval aviation, in submarining, in formidable surface force, in being able to prove ourselves in lots of operations and battles, all of it undergirded by the fact that almost all our ships today are built, designed, made in India. I think that is a story that is worth telling. Recently, I think the Navy chief himself came out with the statistics that out of the 49 ships on order today, 41 ships on order today, 39 of them are being built in India. So almost all of our ships today are those which have been built in India, and they rank amongst the best in the world. So this is a great story that needs to be told, and I thought I will relate some aspect of that story here. Now, what makes the story, while I'll give you the details in a couple of minutes, the first thing we must remember is vision. And Indian Navy, ladies and gentlemen, you have to say hats off to this vision. It's almost like Walchand Hirachand dreamt big, dreamt of taking on the British. The Indian Navy, 25th of August 1947, just 10 days after independence, created its first plan paper or first blueprint. And at that time, we talked of aircraft carriers and submarines in our inventory. I mean, people would have laughed. They would have said, foolhardy. They've said, you want to run when you cannot walk. They've said, tum bullock cart ke zamane mein ho, or aircraft carriers or submarines ke bare mein soch rahe ho. But there were people in the Indian Navy who dreamt. Because unless you have a vision, unless you have that audacity of hope, as it is, frequently brought out, you cannot really then start preparing or planning for that. And I think that vision was very, very important. The second is organization. As anyone in management, as Joshi ma'am, or in administration of government will tell you, that no matter how big your vision, if you have to translate that into reality, you need nuts and bolts, you need organization, you need people to make that capable. And the Navy set about, despite its constraints, set about having an organization. So we set up the Naval Design Cell in the early 60s. Many of these were civilians, and even today, now we have what are called scientists in uniform, lots of naval officers who have contributed to the designing of ships. This is unique, without any disrespect to the Army and Air Force. They are fantastic services. But what makes Navy unique is that we have used our own officers instead of buying off the shelf to contribute in designing of the ships. We have groomed naval constructors. We have used our own officers who, with scientific bent of mind, to be in several organizations which produce cutting-edge research. And that is how shipbuilding in India has been successful. So it is of vision and about organization. And let me just sort of break that down further into, some components. Now, before that, what are the advantages, ladies and gentlemen, that accrue when a country starts building its ships or building its own hardware? I mean, ships is a general term for submarines, in some ways for aircraft or other smaller component. And while there are many, there are three very, very broad advantages. The first is you assure yourself security and autonomy. Remember that if any war happens, anytime happens, the global sanctions regime, the way international order is shaped, often if you are importing your arms from abroad, or importing weapons from abroad, or importing hardware from abroad, this supply line can be cut at any time. Or the prices can be raised unreasonably, and at that time you have no go. So your autonomy and your security is invariably tied up to how much you import and how much you indigenously produce. So greater security is got by doing it at home. The second, obviously, is savings, economy. When you do it at home, you not only can do trade in rupees, precious foreign exchange is saved, but most importantly, what also happens is that you're able to save lots of money in absolute terms, because the cost of building a ship in India, someone has estimated that the Kolkata class absolute state of the art guided missile destroyers would cost 4 times as much if we brought them for outside. So if there is a ship that is costing $1 billion in India, it would cost you $4 billion abroad. Or in other words, we could get 4 ships or 5 ships for that same cost. So see how the numbers can be played out in different ways. The third most important thing is that there were several other spin-offs in terms of your industries, particularly medium and small enterprises, a big fillip to them, lots of standards that you can set. I'll come to it in a bit, but shipbuilding is about exacting standards, and lots of standards, new standards or best practices are set up. So there are a huge amount of offshoots, lots of technology that you bring in from outside, then is spread. So whether it is, hydraulics, whether it is cutting edge steel, a whole lot of these have spin-offs in your domestic industry sector, IT, and a whole lot of other issues. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, building naval hardware, combat naval hardware in India has several advantages, which people in the Navy realized long ago, and therefore made it possible. But then it's easier said than done. What are the problem areas? And let us think of them. One, of course, is that there were lots of problems, particularly at the dawn of independence. First is you had a security situation with Kashmir, with Junagadh, with Hyderabad. You were still, as a country, settling down. You had problems on your land borders. You were very poor and impoverished country. So you had to balance the need of defense budget, within that the Army, Navy, Air Force, overall economic, social issues, and all of them very, very important. Then Navy is all about technology. It's about capital intensive technology, which is not very easy to get here. So there were several problems, but let me illustrate to you in very simple language 2 or 3 problems associated with shipbuilding. First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, you must have seen and heard frequently जब आप petrol pump में होते हो, you're told please don't use your mobile phone, right? And why? Because there is a chance that transmission from your mobile phone can result in safety issues in a place where huge amount of fuel is stored. Or you're often told when the aeroplane is taking off in airfields that don't use your mobile phones because there's a possibility of interference of yours leading to safety issues on the aircraft. Now, can you imagine a structure which has, to begin with, huge amounts of fuel, 400, 500, 1,000 tons of fuel, put in one place. Now imagine that in that structure where you have lots of fuel, you also got to put lots of ammunition, missiles, gun shells, torpedoes, rockets. I mean, which fool in the world would put fuel and ammunition together? If you were to do it on land, you would have them far apart. Then imagine overlaid on the structure, you got lots of heavy duty radar and radio transmissions, each one of them of several megawatts, pumping out energy. Okay. Again, on land, you would not do that, right? But you got to have a structure on which you have got to put all of this together. Then that structure will have people 200, 300, 400, 500 people living, and you got to create structures for them to live, to have certain habitability. And imagine that complete structure put in the sea against the highest stresses. It has to roll, pitch, it has to take the greatest of stress and strain, of cyclone, of bad weather, of constant movement, of several other meteorological factors, of salinity, of a whole lot of issues that climate and weather brings. Now that is the foolish entity that we call the ship. It is only in the ship. People frequently talk of rocket science or brain surgery. It's not rocket science or not brain surgery, seeming to imply that they are the acme of knowledge, and certainly my highest respect to them. But I'd most humbly argue that building a warship is perhaps the most complex of all human endeavors, because in constructing a warship, you got to put ammunition, fuel, radio waves, people, all of that facing stresses. I mean, there are people living, these are not unmanned, and all of that which have to be survivable, which have to face the toughest seas, and all of them have to have a certain life. Okay, so I would argue that shipping is ultimate in terms of construction. Second, there is no jugaad when it comes to building warships, and we're all, look, I'm a fan of jugaad. Jugaad often results in innovation, but the kind of thing in land where you have two wires poking out and with one matchstick put into the plug point so that you can get that doesn't work on board the ships, whether it's merchant ships or the Indian Navy ships. We have a saying in the Navy saying loose lips sink ships, but not just loose lips, loose nuts and bolts and screws, all of them sink ships. Because when it comes to safety, when it comes to underwater integrity, you cannot have something that is takriban theek. Okay, you can't have something that says thoda leakage chalega. So it is very, very important that your standards of shipbuilding have to be highest. And to do this, when your industrial climate, when your technology base is not necessarily the highest in the world, is a huge challenge. And the Navy has often met and transcended these challenges. The third important issue, ladies and gentlemen, is that ships have a finite life. They are meant to stay for 20, 30 years. Normally, we think of a big ship as having 30 years life. So please see the problem. Those who are constructing ships, assuming 3 to 5 years from launch to delivery, from design to launch to delivery, then have to think about how this ship will perform for 35 years, which means they have to envision how the nature of warfare is going to change. What is going to happen? Can it be scalable? Can we replace? Can we make modular construction? How can it fulfill its basic role? What is the basic role? The world around us is changing so fast. Technology is changing so fast. How do you envision a future? What are the sort of, combat platforms you need 20 or 30 years down the line? How will the ship perform and continue to perform its role at that time? These are huge challenges, and they need to be dealt with. So I would therefore argue that making a ship is like I'm a big fan of cinema, just as cinema is an amalgam of all talents from creativity, writing, music, acting, editing, technology. Warship building is that, with one fundamental difference. When you make cinema, you can afford to do retakes, whereas when it comes to warship building, there are no retakes. Jo hai, wo full and final, as they say, that is there. So therefore, these are very, very important issues that you have to consider when you have to, and often there are contradictory requirements. I don't want to go too deep into it, but a ship has got to have 3 things: to float. It must not sink, right? It must be survivable and survivable in best of conditions. It must be able to move, so propel well, and it must be able to fight. A warship is meant to do that ultimately. And often there are contradictory requirements. A ship, for example, must have high speed, but it must have low fuel consumption because it has to have long legs. It must be highly maneuverable. At the same time, it has to be highly stable. So these are the sort of things that designers and warship builders have to constantly sort of this one. And the role definition. Ultimately, you will never forgive a navy if it does not win a war. The basic job of navy is to deter a war, and if forced to fight, win it, which means that our ordnance must always hit the target. Our ships must do what they're meant to do. And therefore, how do you ensure that is one of the sort of very biggest challenges. And over the next 5 or 10 minutes, I'll tell you how this has been done. This has been done, ladies and gentlemen, in a very, very interesting way. We began in 1960, before that starting to build and design small tugs and harbor craft. In 1960, we built our first small ship called INS Ajay. Then in the early 60s, we built a survey ship. A survey ship doesn't carry weapons. It's meant for hydrography, but it was bigger in size, called the Darshak. Then in the late 60s, we started what is called the Leander program. Leander was a British design, but we established a separate Leander design project. Mazgaon Dock in Mumbai was interested with sort of building it, but naval designers were involved. And Leander project started off in 1968, which was a big fillip to indigenous warship production. And by 73, we had brought out the first of them, INS Nilgiri. Now, this Leander project is very interesting, ladies and gentlemen, because we produced 6 ships in that. And in each ship, we made small little improvement. So on the basic design, now naval people started tinkering. So much so that the last 2 ships, I commanded one of them, INS Vindhyagiri. The last 2 ships were equipped with a bigger helicopter deck, the Sea King deck, rather than the Chetak deck. And this was not there in the original Leander design of the British. So you see, we started improvising. Then in the mid 80s, we produced our first indigenous design. Remember, the Leander was a British design. We produced our first indigenous design, which was the Godavari class. Now, Godavari class made waves. Some of you will remember, I talk about this, that in 1989, when the Time magazine proclaimed India as the next military power, it put INS Godavari on its cover because there was a realization that warship building is a new currency of power. So the Godavari class in some ways, and it had several wonderful innovations, carrying 2 huge helicopters at that time. It was an amalgam of Russian and Western design. No other country has done this, ladies and gentlemen. No other country has done it. And it was an amalgam of these 2 designs. The basic propulsion of package of the Leanders were used now to propel a much heavier ship, a ship that was 1,000+ tons heavier in weight. And those of you who are technologically inclined will realize how significant each of these achievements are. So we produced the Godavari class. And then we started producing some smaller corvettes called the Khupri class. But we reached the acme of our ship design and construction in the 90s with the Delhi class, the INS Delhi, the first of them. And now Delhi class were simply magnificent because of their sleek looks, the wonderful combat power, and they ranked amongst the best in the world. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what is significant here? INS Delhi, the first was brought from Britain at the dawn of independence. INS Delhi, the second, was built indigenously, designed, produced in India at 50 years of independence in 1997. Even more significantly, ladies and gentlemen, INS Delhi was built in 1997 when Tatas built the first indigenous car. The first indigenous car, the Indica, some of you will remember, was built by Tatas in 1997. Compare that, INS Delhi was the 75th ship built indigenously. So you see some of these great scale and scope of this achievement. In fact, by 2014, we had built more than 80 ships, over 20 designs, and I think when we approach this year, we would probably build 100 ships indigenously, along with about 20+ unique different designs. And I think that goes on to show the diversity, the talent, the different platforms, and everything that we're doing. The Delhi class was followed by the Shivalik class, which added the stealth aspect to it. and that was followed by the Calcutta class. I'm sort of jumping over time. Kolkata class, which, you know, if you see them, they're super duper state of the art. I mean, they're the sort of ships that will create not just a sense of awe, but a great sense of pride in you as Indians, that we're building some of the finest ships in the world. And as many of you know, the indigenously built aircraft carrier, Vikrant, taking off the name of the formidable earlier one, has already is already undergoing sea trials, and we hope it will be commissioned later this year. So you can see that from building warships, building submarines, we are a little yet to get on the aircraft, but advanced light helicopter and light combat aircraft is going to take us there. So the Indian Navy has been in the forefront of building software and you know, of creating Atmanirbharta, as we say. So this is a very, very important story. And I would ask, I'm not throwing statistics at you, indigenous component, the life of each of these shares, what did they do? Because I believe as students of CMAS, you should be researching on each of these, not just students of CMAS, but many who are visiting. Each of these tell you several fascinating sub-stories. I mean, I don't mind coming and telling that to you, but of lovely, you know, system, processes, people, and all that. Let me just sort of end in last 5 minutes so that I can then take on some question and answers. So apart from warship building or hardware building, ladies and gentlemen, remember that the Indian Navy has done extraordinarily well in many other fields. One of them is integration. You know, integration across a range of, you know, equipment, because often lots of our equipment, sensors and weapons were from 10, 12 different countries. I mean, very frankly, no warship in the world today is entirely 100% built in India, built in their own country. Western countries do a fusion. They all get together to make good designs, and they put in their best minds together. India has challenges there because of our principle of autonomy. But what we do is that when we get, you know, a system A from USA, system B from Russia, system 3 from UK, system 4 from France, system 5 from Ukraine, system 6 from Italy. Being able to integrate all of them is a big art, because they're all made for their countries. And I can very proudly say that system integration is something in which Indian Navy, through organizations like VESI, through the Directorate of Naval Design, through great efforts of some of my friends like Commodore Anil Kumar, who is graced us today with his presence here, they have done some fabulous work in integration, in IT, in cutting-edge technology. And remember that the technology in Navy is a real thing, because out at sea you got to use this. There's no question of sort of outsourcing some of these to other people. The other place where we have done excellently well is not just limited to science and technology, but created doctrines, knowledge. Someone has rightly said that it is when you start producing indigenous knowledge that you become a real power, a knowledge power. And over the last 20 years, ladies and gentlemen, many of our publications are available in open domain. India's maritime doctrine, India's maritime security strategy, all of these are openly available. Please read them. These are world-class publications that have won several good sort of reviews from peers. They stand up to individual scholarship scrutiny. They've been written very well. So we have started producing knowledge in our operational tactical doctrines. Those, of course, may not be available to you people, but strategic publications are. Please read them. The Indian Navy has been in the forefront of what I would argue is a knowledge revolution. And in some ways, our involvement with CMAS, many of us doing PhDs, is a reflection of Indian Navy's greater quest for producing indigenous maritime knowledge. The last couple of points, no story of success is complete without talking of the people. And India's indigenization journey has had some remarkable characters. The foremost of them, our technical hero, is someone called Dr. Arogya Swami Paul Raj. I repeat the name, Dr. Arogya Swami Paul Raj. Please Google, ladies and gentlemen, for him. This gentleman is the founder or sorry, the inventor of something called the MIMO technology, multiple input, multiple output technology, which is the basis of 4G and 5G, which in turn powers your smartphones. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Arogya Swami Paul Raj is a retired Commodore of the Indian Navy. He is a professor in Stanford today. He's winner of the Alexander Graham Bell and the Marconi Awards, which are considered the tech Nobels. Importantly, he served in the Indian Navy for 26 years. And more importantly, his quest for technology started when we started designing an indigenous sonar in the 70s after the loss of Kukri in 1971, our only loss of that battle. But this is how Navy has provided impetus to some of our great heroes, and that has affected in turn science and technology all over the world. So today, if you're using smartphones, please be thankful that it was an Indian Navy man who made it possible. There are other people like Mohan Ram, who was associated with shipbuilding. Later, he became a corporate leader, TVS, Suzuki, and all that. So he was, there's, I think, Commodore Prabhala, there's Admiral Dayashankar, one of our pioneers, and each of these, Professor Anuradha was talking about Amar Chitra Katha. I believe each of these silent heroes needs specific things written about them. We produce some great people. And that doesn't end only with technology. In fact, as recent as COVID time, from manufacturing possibly, and it is a Navy patent, one of the best N95 masks, to creating oxygenation equipment, which ensures greater distribution of oxygen for COVID patients. The Navy was in the forefront of doing a huge amount of other technologies too, that came to assist the country in different ways. So what I'm trying to tell you is that over the years, Indian Navy has created an ecosystem where innovation and indigenization go hand in hand. We try to seek solutions from within our ecosystem so that India is constantly ahead of the curve. There are, of course, challenges. There are miles to go before we sleep, many promises to keep. We still have to do a lot on the indigenization curve. But I think what we have achieved so far is a story worth telling, and in many ways, as Professor Anuradha mentioned Dr. Shekhar. I remember him dearly. He was a very dear friend of mine. There's another Commodore Shekhar who was a friend of his, who also, and mine, who also passed away a couple of years ago. And he had told me long ago that Samudra Bharat hi Samruddha Bharat hai, that only Bharat that thinks of the sea can be a prosperous, secure Bharat. I think that's one of the key takeaways, and India has contributed to that. My last 30 seconds, and this is something that Professor Anuradha talked of, Madam Joshi flagging off that initiative of women flagship. It has a very interesting story. The captain of that ship, Captain Suneha Gatpande, we had invited her a couple of years ago on one of our Indian Navy, Merchant Navy seminars that we have. Joshi ma'am may be interested. I have been in an organization which has this Merchant Navy and Indian Navy meeting every year for a certain common exchange of ideas. And Captain Suneha was there, and she mentioned that she was actually influenced by a small serial called Arohan on TV many years ago, which had Pallavi Joshi and I think that Shifali Shah. And she wanted to join the Navy, but because the Navy at that time was not possible, she joined the Merchant Navy. Of course, she has risen to huge ranks there. But the fact that, there are various things today, that there is a lady CMD, there's a lady director of CMAS, and a lot more ladies in Merchant Navy as well as in Indian Navy, probably points towards a future where women power and not manpower will propel the future of the maritime world. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your extremely patient hearing. And I'm willing to take on any questions or any missives or anything that you might put for me or against me. Thanks a lot for your patient hearing.
Thank you, Commodore Kesnur. You ended on a wonderful note for we women who try to work for the country. So there are a couple of appreciatory messages in the chat and some questions which I'll pose. I'm sure Madam Joshi would also like to ask something to you later. We'll take the students' questions first. So this is from Debabrata Sen. He actually appreciated you. Commodore Shrikant Kesnur sir, excellent points you raised. Really thought-provoking presentation. You always surprise us by your presentation, as well as your level of thought. Salute, Jai Hind. This is Dr. Disale from Kudal, Konkan. I know him, he's my colleague. CMD, the Kesnur sir, very good points to, for explanation, point to point. Subhajit Roy is asking, great to hear decorated naval historians, Commodore Srikant Kesnur sir, privileged to have served under his command. Debabrata Sen again writes.
Subhajit is now a big media boss, baron. He's editing lots of technical journals, a great guy. And yes, we were shipmates many years ago on the INS Delhi. So hats off to him and thanks for his presence.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. So the Navy has come out with innovators and inventors like Dr. Arogya Swami, and also media, as you said, a media, what you call it, a baron, emitting out from the Navy. So this is question from Debabrata Sen. Do you think India's union budget allocation for Indian Navy and cutting naval budget allocation on the regular basis also a serious challenge to achieve Atmanirbhar indigenous orientation?
Yeah, I think I'll answer that. Mr. Sen, thanks for your question. And I can clearly see your love and concern for the Indian Navy in that. But in fact, this year's budget has raised the allocation for Indian Navy. We're all very happy about that. So this year's figures are very good, very encouraging. But if we were to take your overall point, please remember that the budget is an exercise ultimately in tailoring limited resources. There will always be competing demands not just at the defense ministry level, but at the national level. And I think we must perfectly understand that. I think Javed Akhtar Saab has said, har ghar mein ek kamra kam hai. So even the US Navy talks of 1,000 ship Navy in a global collaborative endeavor. So no Navy is ever happy with the amount of ships or budget, as I'm sure no entity. I mean, you ask University of Mumbai or CMAS, we all want more funds, greater allocation. So I think it's a nice, valid concern, but we also must understand that these are dynamic exercises, and Navy plans for the dynamism up and down, which is where actually indigenization actually helps, because if the market and the economy ecosystem is largely within your control, then over a 5-year plan or a period or a 10-year period, you can make greater flexibility and dynamic allocation rather than, send it abroad. So I don't think the answer to your question, I don't think it is a challenge, because for Indian Navy, Atmanirbharta or indigenization is more than a mere mantra. It's an act of faith. It's an act of virtue. It's something that we strongly believe in and we have steadfastly kept with it. So budgetary outlays are dynamic. They go up and down. But strategically, we are focused on Atmanirbharta or self-reliance, and that's not going to change.
There is Bhalchandra Latte. He's saying eye-opening facts on the capabilities of Indian Navy and Indian ship manufacturing. Subhajit Roy again asks, what is the percentage of naval budget allotted towards indigenization? Will ongoing Russia-Ukraine war somehow affect India's defense procurement?
And insofar as ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, with the highest regard, I would say that there are people beyond my pay grade who can answer that. This is out of syllabus as far as I'm concerned. It's beyond my this one. But percentage of naval budget allocated towards indigenization, I think, you can't have these penny pinching things, because you don't make defense allocation saying chawal ke liye itna, aata ke liye itna, tur dal ke liye itna. What we are trying to do is allocate towards platforms, programs, things like that. But your larger point, I think over a period of time, we have managed to blow almost 2/3 or more of our budget into the domestic ecosystem? That's another, I'm thankful for this question, because that's another way in which the domestic economy is enhanced. So if that's your question, I think much of our budget goes into the indigenous economic system and into indigenous shipbuilding. But I don't know, and I'm not aware, maybe there are figures for that, whether for each program you have a separate percentage of budget allocated. I can get back to you.
Purvi Kamble writes, how does Navy ensure its own energy security? Very important question. Fuel requirements, particularly in context of indigenization. I think it's a good question.
Yeah, it's a very good question. Thanks, Purvi. Very, very important question. See, I think when you say how does Navy ensure its own energy security is ensured by the country. The Navy plays a part in this. I mean, of course, at smaller level, there are best practices. Like I told you, that one of our things in ship design is to ensure that our ships have the most, the best fuel consumption, best meaning the most economic fuel consumption. That's a constant design endeavor. At the same time, our ships have something called economic running regimes for longest endurance, which means that when it's not needed, we don't guzzle fuel. We try to ensure that. And there are other fuel economy measures that we do, exercises together, ensuring that one reason that our exercises are packed from morning to evening when we go out to sea is to maximize the time at sea. But these are all tactical measures. The other thing, and I can do a separate talk on this, is that we're also at our own level trying out alternative fuels, biofuels, using a whole lot of new ecological housekeeping devices, from solar power to other measures, to try and reduce our footprint when it comes to hydrocarbons. But at a grand national level, what does the Navy do? I think it is the nation that ensures energy security, and it does that through diplomacy, it does that through security measures, it does that through storage. You ensure that you store. I mean, one thing is that you buy, or you ensure that you have lots of existing stocks, so that anytime there is an emergency, you're not short of it. What the Indian Navy does is not so much energy security, it does security of energy, which means that energy that flows into our country, and remember that almost much of our energy flows in from other countries into India, or is produced offshore. Therefore, our dependence on energy from the seas is more than 90% for oil and from natural gas. So our entire dependence on energy is from the seas, and the Indian Navy ensures a safe environment for them. Because if it was unsafe, then ships would not be coming here. Remember that only 14 or 15% of our trade is carried on Indian ships. That means 85% of trade comes on non-Indian ships. They will not enter into Indian waters or Indian ports if this was not safe. If the Indian Navy had not ensured that whether our oil field development areas of Bombay High or of the Kakinada or other ports are not safe, if our ports are not safe, if our EEZ is not safe, in fact, when the Gulf crisis and all happens, the Indian Navy sent ships to the Persian Gulf, to Gulf of Aden when piracy happens, to escort many of these ships safely to India. So we ensure security of energy, whereas the nation ensures energy security, and that difference is important to understand.
I think the last question is not very relevant to your talk. I'm not able to understand who, because the person has not identified. Allow to give exams, allow everyone to give exams of Navy A and SSR. Please don't judge on our state board marks. I would request people to kindly join, do a BA, BCom, BA, BCom, BSc, and join Center for Excellence in Maritime Studies for Masters in Maritime Studies. And also we'll have a PG diploma in Maritime Logistics and Trade. You can go on to do your doctoral studies as well. But I think Indian Navy has their policies, which comes from the ministry. So I think it is beyond Commodore Kesnu's comment, but if he wishes to, he can.
No, like you rightly brought out, it's beyond me to determine these terms of entry and all that. So you're right. But I want to take off from what you said about CMAS, because CMAS has been so much a labor of love for all of us. That one reason I mentioned about Arohan is that you could have future students in CMAS not only being a part of the maritime industry mainstream, but they could also write about the maritime world. They could make movies about maritime heroes and icons. So there are so many ancillary maritime occupations or maritime, avocations that can come in. And that can be an important aspect in which CMAS consciously or unconsciously can groom a lot of people into thinking maritime. I mean, I would want some future CMAS student to write a great biography of Valchand Hirachand. I would want someone to write about the story of SS Loyalty or V.O. Chidambaram. I mean, we've had some great maritime icons, or make movies or do Amar Chitrakatha books on them. So you never know. CMAS can incubate not merely talent for the mainstream maritime avocations, but also to other in the larger maritime domain. And I think that could be some good ideas for many people listening today.
I think these are the questions which have been posed in the chat box. So is there any other question? You can raise your hands and we can unmute you. If not, I would take this opportunity to thank Commodore Srikant Kesnur. Number one, Center for Excellence in Maritime Studies is, as I say, I repeat, indebted to you for your contribution in laying the foundations. You all were the stalwarts who gave us support, both moral support, to go ahead, and also technical support. Even today, you've been grooming our students, mentoring our students, going the extra mile, which is not part of your schedule of teaching and advising. So that really hats off to you, because that also shows your commitment to the country and the profession in grooming, students and postgraduates to enter this industry, the allied industry, as you said, maybe making movies, biographies, comics, fiction, all with a sense to it. The students can do so many things, and they're takers. That's where the occupations are. They have to think out of the box. We've seen how much movies which are made on, the war or the army or Desh Bhakti related, including sports, which kindles the, your nationalist, your spirit and your love for the country, usually garners a lot of public support and viewing. And I understand what you were implying, and your entire narrative was so lucid, and it made sense how the trajectory of how indigenization progressed, and the way we improvise. And that is what innovation is all about. You need not reinvent the wheel, you need to improvise further and further, and that is the innovation which the Indian Navy has shown. And probably officers like you who've come out from NDA and risen the rungs are the ones who know the entire gamut of this domain. And the country is proud of you, CMAS is proud of you, our students is proud of the Indian Navy, its officers and all its personnel. And thank you very much, Commodore Kesnur, for your presence today and to give this keynote lecture. Thank you for your presence. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Wonderful to be here. Apologies for signing in as Siddharth Kesnur. Technology always plays the fool on, particularly on old people like us, but sons come to the rescue. So thank you.
So it's fine. So over to you, Mansi, you take over.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Commodore Kesnur, sir, for your insightful presentation, insightful storytelling. It was wonderful for us to listen to you always. Now we will move on to our next speaker, Captain Alok Srivastav. I will call upon Uma to introduce Captain Alok Srivastav. Uma, over to you. Apologies, Uma is facing. Okay.
Dr. Mansi, you can start the introduction.
Thank you, Mansi ma'am. I am indeed honored to welcome Captain Alok Srivastav. He's a graduate from Mumbai University in BSc Nautical Science. He has almost 20 plus years of comprehensive experience in sailing and post-fixture commercial desk, along with a tangent of technology and legal. He has successfully worked on coding, Power BI projects, operation dashboards, analytics, process mapping, and optimization. He has fared through 5,000 commercial voyages, both from a commercial operator and head owner's perspective. Apart from similar profile in the past, he's currently working as a general manager, business and development and operations, and is looking both outwards and inwards by way of establishing new business opportunities, and at the same time, taking care of in-house commercial operations. He's also our visiting faculty in CMAS, and I'm honored to welcome you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Uma. And indeed, a great program being done today. I mean, I'm honored to be part of this. And it's not easy to take over from where Commodore Srikanth has left. It's indeed an honor to be a speaker along with him. Thanks to Anuradha ma'am for keeping me in the project, and it's a great learning for me. And more than that, along with the students, when you get counter questions, it's something learning more. Means we think we know everything, or we have 10-20 years of experience behind us, but when you come across a counter question from somebody who's very new, somebody who doesn't knows what it is, suddenly you start realizing a different aspect of it. So anyway, today is National Maritime Day. I will share the presentation just to maintain the flow. So just a second. So just to check, the presentation is you can view the presentation.
Yeah, we can see the presentation, sir.
Perfect. So I'll start with it.
So yeah.
Yeah, so the presentation visible, no?
No, sir. We can see the PDF,
okay. Sorry,
not the presentation.
Easier now.
Yes, sir.
Thanks a lot. So today what we are going to discuss is something beyond horizons of the merchant navy. As we all know, what navy is, what merchant navy is, what Indian Navy is, sailing on the ships, what sort of difficulties, what sort of passions they have. They visit places, they earn money, everything. They have a pride, so everything is there. But today what I want to discuss is something beyond horizons. There are, as Joshi ma'am said, I think she has left, but as she said, there's a lot of support stuff, a lot of more ecosystem around the merchant navy, which actually supports us. And I'm going to concentrate more on the merchant navy, not on the Indian Navy, which is definitely the elder brother of merchant navy. I would term it like that. Just coming to the point, why this is so passionate. And so I would try to relate something with my story is something like that. When I was at a very tender age, something around in my 19s and teens or 20 years old, I was suddenly placed on a ship, a big ship. I was not even aware of what a ship does or how it, what are the various functions, how it is operated. Yes, I had done a 3 years course affiliated through Mumbai University, where we had all sort of theoretical knowledge, but practically we were not even aware what a ship is. So I was on a ship somewhere in the middle of night. We boarded the ship. It was a Panamax class container vessel carrying about 3,000 tons TEU container. That's a 20-foot container, 3,000 20-foot containers, what we see usually on the trailers going on the road. Suddenly, even in those days, container ships had very short turnaround times. Means they used to come to the port within 7 to 8 hours, maximum 10-12 hours. Containers are loaded and discharged, everything going almost as a robotic process. Which container has to be discharged, which has to be loaded, everything is done meticulously. So I joined somewhere in Hong Kong. Suddenly we are in Singapore, then China, then Japan, all going through all the countries. No track of sleep. What is going on, I don't know. Virtually, I can say lost in the Pacific Ocean. I was not even knowing when I slept, when I woke up, when it's night, when we are having lunch, when we are having dinner. But sooner or later, when the seasickness, I would say the seasickness faded away, there came the sun. And I really mean by these words, I think other people who have sailed on the ship can relate to it. When you see the sun coming up at the horizon and there's no clouds, no building, there's no visible pollution, what we say, visual pollution, there's nothing. You can see the horizon clearly. When the sun comes out and it really brightens the lives and soul, you feel energized. And I have seen those times also when the moon is sort of, setting down into the same water, it really looks like a molten gold. So those are the views which no camera can capture. Nothing, whatever you do, whatever sort of best camera you have, you cannot capture those images. So this was something 25 years back. To add the contrast, today the container ship, I'm sure many people have seen the news that a ship called Ever Given got stuck in the Suez Canal. So those ships are giant ones. They are 400 meters long compared to what was 220 meters 25 years back. They're almost 21,000 TU, which was 3,000 TU about 25 years back. And the same kid is now holding a master mariner license, maybe a commercial manager, maybe a bureaucrat, maybe somebody heading a agency desk. There's a lot of business beyond. So that's where I'm trying to concentrate. What is beyond the merchant navy? We all think that the ship is something, merchant navy or an Indian navy is when you go on board, you serve over there. But what happens after that? Many people leave the sea after 1 year. Many people are passionate enough to work for another 25 years. They live their gloriful life, but there are many who leave and come into the ecosystem which supports the shipping. So that's what I'm trying to capture in the word beyond horizon. Just to give a very small, what is the connection with the university? T.S. Dufresne, which was the pioneer in the merchant navy training in India, was launched in 1927. Then that vessel was scrapped somewhere in 1972, led by T.S. Rajendra. That was also a ship. In 1993, people came up with an idea of scrapping the ships and coming to a shore-based institution. This is called T.S. Chanakya, where I belong. It is under the umbrella of Mumbai University and offers BSc Nautical Sciences. There are two more institutes which definitely requires a mention here. LBS College of Advanced Maritime Studies. It is in Savory actually, and it offers all the courses related to merchant navy, be it the captain's degree or all those specialized courses. And similarly, there is an institute for engineers in Calcutta. It is called DMET, Mary. So these are the educational connection where the products which go on the ship and man the ship, run the ships, represent the country. Even we call these sailors the ambassadors. It is not the ambassadors or the bureaucrats or the IFS officers who sit in the embassy represent the country. Everyone represents this country. Means I'm not taking away that everyone includes even the tourists who go abroad, but these mariners who go abroad, who meet people, who do business with others, are also ambassadors of the country. So what merchant navy is definitely the younger brother of Indian Navy. Definitely. The reason why is, although the merchant navy is always, we have seen, being involved in the commercial activity, but when the time comes, the Indian government has a right to call upon all Indian flag vessels for the purpose of serving the nation. So that's why I call the merchant navy as the younger brother. Then comes, it's actually a backbone of the international trade. And we have just heard previous speakers saying 75% of the world trade, 90% by volume. Those all are true numbers. Means today, shipping is catering to 11 billion metric tons of cargo annually. This was something about 5 billion tons 20 years back, and it has grown. Be it is coal, iron ore, grain, sugar, manganese ore, oil, lots of things, LNG, everything is going through the ships, be forest products, even livestock. cruise liners, everything is there. So a lot of trade happens because of this. And trade is what? Without trade, as uh, somebody said before also, half of the, and actually Joshi ma'am only said that half of the world would starve and half of the world will just get into the filth because of too much of stocks. Merchant Navy, apart from giving the trade, it also supports, as of today, about 1.5 million people worldwide. So these is approx number of people, the crew who are on board the vessel. They man the ship, they run the show. Now these 1.5 million people running a trade of almost 11 billion metric ton of cargo are operating about 50,000 ships. So these ships, be it a small handy vessel, means just to give you an idea, the ships are of size of something like 10,000 metric tons going till almost 400,000 metric tons. Means these ships can carry enormous amount of cargo into them. So these ships are the mechanism of the import and export. Definitely the word glamorous and exotic is there. It is still there. I know the port call number of hours in the port has reduced drastically, but still the people on board, and especially the merchant navy, they get an advantage or opportunity to visit places, to go across, meet different people. So that glamour and exotic part is still there. Definitely it is super challenging. It is challenging and it is getting challenging day by day. Why? The main reasons are numbers of regulations which have come into play, means be it MARPOL, be it ISPS code. It's a lot of regulations are there which makes life challenging on board. Even COVID times, unfortunately, means yes, we face a lot of burnt of COVID while we are at our home, but these seafarers on the ships, unfortunately, they were not getting sign off. Sign off means getting relief. Usual contracts on ship is something about 6 months, 4 months, or 9 months on board. After that, people go home and they deserve it. But unfortunately, during COVID times, countries were not ready to accept any foreign nationals for the purpose of sign off. And it is not, I'm not blaming the country as such. Everybody went into a shell trying to protect their own self. But challenge were there. People were stuck on ship for almost 14 months, 18 months. So that has been a really devastating on the part of due to the COVID. A risk element is always there. I'm sure many of you must have seen some videos that the ship is there and it is just rolling and pounding into the sea. It is very much truth. It is risky. Sometimes you really feel if the vessel is rolling, is going to come back or not. So risk element is there, but when there is a challenge, when there is a risk, rewards are there. Rewards are definitely monetarily, rewards are there. More than that, the rewards are satisfying. You feel that you have achieved something when you have lived through that night, when you have felt that, oh my God, whether I'm going to see that tomorrow morning or not. Again, I'm not comparing it with the Indian Navy. The risks are much higher over there. But yes, still here, when weather is bad, when the captain on the ship or the other officers on the ship, the engineers on the ship, the ratings on the ship, they have to man the vessel. They have to decide what has to be done, what course has to be followed. After doing all this, rewards are there. Merchant Navy also helps countries to connect. They connect different cultures. So that's a very big advantage apart from trade. So I'll now touch upon why and how the beyond horizons. When standing tall on the ship bridge is actually a place on the ship from where the navigation and many other facilities are controlled. So that's the place, something like a driving seat. So that's where you're sitting, and actually you are not sitting, you're not supposed to sit when you're on watch, you're standing along with your helmsman or the support staff you have. The maximum visibility in good weather, how far you can see, is something about 15, 20, or maybe maximum 25 nautical miles. 1 nautical mile is something about 1.8 kilometers. So maximum to maximum somebody can see is 40 miles. I'm just using this as a notation only here, that the limit of the visibility is maximum 50 kilometers. What lies behind, beyond that? That's what I'm trying to pick up. So while many of us have heard the stories of world, money, and passion, but there is an unexplored territory both within the observer at the bridge and beyond the visible horizon. Today, I intend to take you all into the space beyond the horizon, that is the commercial and the support space of the merchant navy. So these are the elements which work beyond the horizon, or these form the ecosystem of merchant navy specifically. The most important element is the commercial part, and I belong to that part only. Why commercial is very important? With all due regards to anything in this world, unfortunately, if the commercial doesn't work, things don't work, because end of the day, the money has to flow, the things have to work. So commercial is very, very important. Then comes something like technical management. Technical management, as the word suggests, it's like managing the ship technically. It incorporates things like how the ship is performing, how the engines are performing, what sort of fuel has to be supplied, what sort of lube oil has to be supplied, spare parts, a lot of things, manning, procurement, supply of foods. So everything comes under the ambit of technical management. And just to take one step back here, why I feel beyond horizons is important to discuss with students at this phase of life, or at this stage, is entry into merchant navy as a sea-going carrier, unfortunately, is something at 10+2 level. For engineers, it is after the when they secure their BTech or the engineering degree. But when it comes to students who are mostly part of here in this call, where they have cleared their graduations already, or they are at a later stage of their education, these things like commercial management, technical management, agency, port, and surveyors, these are still open. It is definitely much desirable to have a sailing experience, but it's not mandatory. So that's the reason of why I have picked up something like this here. The other part is agency. Agency is something when a ship is coming into the port, be it India or be it anywhere. Means, let's say it's an Indian ship, and you have Indian crew members on board, and the ship is going to a third country, let's say Greece. Nobody knows who is there. The captain doesn't know whom to talk, what to do. Maybe the language is a problem. So the agent is the person, somebody who helps to liaise between the ship, between the owners of the ship, between the charterers, with the port authorities, with the cargo interests, be it shipper or be it receivers, bunker suppliers. So all facilities, this agent is the center man. Sometimes we even call him second owner, because they are appointed by the owners of the ship. Then comes port and terminal services. This is, I call port and terminal services as the nerve points, because any country, the point where it affects most, the port basically, if by any chance the working of port is hampered, suddenly the entire hinterland, the interconnected economy will get affected. And similarly, if the port and the terminals are working efficiently, the economy will flourish. And this also has a lot of possibilities of jobs and other career managements. Surveyors are people who go on ship, survey a ship, do audit, check whether the things are okay or not, check whether things are maintained as what they should be, as per the port state, means the regulations of the country, as per the IMO, that is, those are the international regulations. Even internal audit surveyors are there who vet the ship based on the company policies. So these are set of 5 people who form the ecosystem around the merchant navy, and they carry out a lot of tasks. I'll try to drill down into the technical management. Technical management, as I said, handles the engine performance, the marine compliance, safety, audits and surveys, certification, maintenance, and procurement. So engine performance is something, let's say, just to give an analogy, if you have a car and it's supposed to give 1 liter, let's say 15 kilometers, but the engines are not working properly, and then you need to take the car to a service center and get the servicing done. But unfortunately, on a ship, we can't take the ship anywhere else. It has to be in the water. And taking the ship off from service for, let's say, 3 days or 5 days and not earning anything is a big impact to the top line of the company. The vessel must run, the ship must run, otherwise the earnings are going to be impacted. And as I said, everything is commercial. So this engine performance, we have actually engineers on the ship, the support staffs on ship, who keep on monitoring the performance of the ships, keep on doing maintenance. Maintenance are based on plant maintenance, also based on defect, means incident maintenance. Also, if let's say there is an incident, then the incidental maintenance are done. But the technical management people who means who are at the shore, they keep on monitoring the performance of the ship. They have a lot of reports which come, they have a lot of database which they keep on studying, and then they give feedbacks to the engineers on the ship to ensure that the performance of the ship is maintained to the utmost level. Then there are marine compliances. Compliances like pollution, MARPOL, that is, you cannot pump out oil into the sea, or the fuel what you're burning into the main engine, the exhaust gas should not contain sulfur more than 0.1% sulfur. So these things are taken care of by the team, which is the responsible for the marine compliance. So be it MARPOL, be it ISPS, there are a lot of other codes, international codes, which need to be complied. And if somebody is not complying with these regulations, the immediate problem is that the insurance of the ship is prejudiced. Means the insurance companies will say, sorry, you are not maintaining your ship properly, I will not be able to insure the ship. And because the ship, the cost is, it can be anything between $20 million to $40 million, $50 million. And if you don't have an insurance, anything going wrong, it can be a big exposure to the owners of the vessel. Then comes the safety. This is paramount, and safety is utmost. We have regulations SOLAS, which came after the Titanic disaster. So safety, that's called safety of life at sea. It has got various chapters, how the ship has to be loaded, how the ship has to be constructed, what sort of facilities have to be there, how the water tightness of the ship is maintained, how the weather tightness is maintained. So all these things are written in those books. Again, the technical management team ensures that these ships are maintained in that way. Then comes the audit and surveys. So whatever you have done, you have all policies in force. You are giving feedbacks and instructions to the ship that this has to be done like this. But still, there has to be a third-party intervention to ensure things are going in a planned way, and that's where audits and surveys are. Audits, internal audits, where the company has their own internal auditors who go and survey the vessels. And then we have external audits, like let's say a tanker vessel, we have Shell audits, we have BP audits, who will not take the vessel, who will not utilize the vessel commercially unless they are passing the vetting surveys of the BP or the Shell. So these are again very important for the commercial readiness of the vessel. Then comes the certification. We have done everything. We have maintained engine, we are complying, we have compliance with the marine policies, we are safe, we have done the audits. Now what? Somebody has to certify us. So there are certificates like safety construction, safety equipment, ISPS code certificate, MARPOL certificate. So all these certificates are called the trading certificate of the ship. It means if the vessel is having these all certificates, the vessel is suitable to trade, and vessel will have the insurance in place. So again, this is the job of the technical management company, which ensures that the vessel is suitably certified. And then comes the maintenance and the procurement. Maintenance and procurement means people are on board. And so from the perspective of people, you need to supply food, you need to supply various other equipments, working gears, safety gears have to be supplied. And then similarly because you have machineries on ships, so you have to supply the spare parts. So this is in total the technical management, what it does. So there are a lot of opportunities even into technical management space. Agency, as I briefed in the intro slide also, they are the people who represent the vessel. So they are the vessel representatives. The owner will appoint an agent that, look, Mr. Agent, my ship, this is the ship, let's say motor vessel XYZ is coming to your port. Please ensure that the vessel has a smoothest turnaround. There all local compliance things are done, custom formalities, immigration formalities, everything is taken care of. So this is the job of the agent. The agent also handles with the port, that is who the stevedores will be, how the cargo is going to be discharged. So he handled liaises with the port also. Then the husbandry matters. When the husbandry matter means the crew sign on, sign off, supplying of spares, supplying of stores to the ship, cash to the master. Cash to the master means cash. Means in this world we need to send money. Means how the money will reach the ship. So cash to the master goes. So this is sorry. So this is what is the job of a agent. Basically, a representative of a vessel in a port. In any country, he will represent the vessel. Everything goes through him. Another very important point is the port and terminal management. Very important. The ship has come. The agent is there. Master is giving ETA notices that I am coming at this time. So the port or the terminal management, the manager sitting over there will ensure that the cargo handling gear, be it crane or be it cargo pumps, are made ready, are kept ready. The custom formalities are completed. The stockyards are kept ready for the cargo. Then the upkeep of port facilities. Now this is very important. Most of the port, let's say Indian deep water port, even Gangavaram, which is a deep water port and has a depth of almost 18 meter, means almost a big ship can come over there. But let's say because of some erosion or some accumulation of sand or the depth is not being able to maintain. It means instead of 18 meter, it's getting 17 meter. If that is the case, suddenly the big draft vessels will not be able to come to that port, and it will be a big loss to the port because the ships are not coming. If the ships are not coming, the earning capability of the port is gone. So the very important job of the port and terminal management is to ensure that the port facilities are kept updated. Custom compliance, definitely port and terminals are the gateway to the country. So they need to ensure that the custom and the safety and the security of the country is not no way prejudiced, and then they work in very strict liaison with the regulatory bodies. And definitely the trade window. India has major ports, minor ports, something I think 14 major ports, a lot of minor ports, and these ports are generating a lot of revenue for the country. Any port, let's say Kandla port, which handles almost 50 million tons of coal cargo, if there is a issue, the hinterland captive power plants which use coal for their power production will just shut down. And if they shut down, suddenly the industry which is getting power from those captive power plants will shut down. So the port and terminal management acts as a trade window. Surveyors, they survey the vessel, and the word specifically suggests survey means you need to go over there and you need to check whether the condition of that particular thing is as per the standards or not. Sometimes this requires specific skill sets. That means either you have sailed on a ship or you have been an engineer on a ship, so that you know the nitty-gritties about the survey. But that's not the case. We have survey, let's say there is a cargo damage, so that goes into damage assessment. For that, you don't need to be don't need to have actually sailed, because let's say it's a grain cargo. The hatches are open at the discharge port and suddenly you found that the cargo is damaged. Can be any region, water has gone inside, or there are heat damage. There can be n numbers of reasons why a cargo can be damaged. And for that, a person who knows the reason why the grain can get damaged, what can be the reason, either the humidity or the heat, or some way some of the other reasons why the grain has rotten. So that person need to be an expert on the grain and not on the ship. So the surveyors are a wide variety. There are surveyors who who go on ship and just measure the quantity of fuel on board or quantity of oil cargo on board. For that, nobody really needs a sailing experience. Sometimes surveyor also represents owners, and that is the case when there are damages. So let's say there is the ship is standing and suddenly the crane which is working on the ship and there is a damage. The crane hits the gangway or to any other structure of the ship. In that case, owners will appoint surveyors to protect their own interests because no one is available. Agent is there, but agents is not specialized in a survey job. So owners will appoint their own surveyors using their own local resources to protect the owner's interest. Sorry. I'm coming to this part commercial at the last because this is where all my interest is. Commercial can be further broken down into chartering, operations, brokering, claims management, legal, weather performance, port cost management, and charter party management and claims. Just to give you a head start first, what a chartering or charter party means. Charter party is basically a contract between the owner of the vessel and the cargo owner. So the owner of the vessel enters into a contract with a person who wants to ship his own cargo from a country A to B, and that contract is called charter party. So this chartering is basically the core of the activity from a merchant navy perspective, because this guy, the chartering person who is sitting in the office, is the person who negotiates the rates. So let's say the chartering person who is sitting at the owner's desk has a ship which is open. Open means, let's say the vessel is in Kandla discharging cargo right now, and after 10 days, he knows that my ship will complete cargo. After this, what to do? Because we know we cannot keep the ship idle. It has to run. It has to be always earning, because every day, just for your information, today bulk carriers are earning something about $30,000 per day. So $30,000 is something is a big chunk of money. So this person at the chartering desk is responsible to ensure that the ships are not idle and are fixed or employed for the best rate possible. So this person will start circulating or will start discussing with his own contacts, with the cargo operators, with the brokers, that what is the next cargo, what has to be done. My vessel is discharging in Kandla, last cargo is coal. Maybe I can go to PG and load limestone, come to India again. Maybe I go to Richards Bay and load coal and come to India again. Maybe I clean my holds and ballast to East Coast, South America and load grain cargo. Or maybe I come down to New Mangalore and load iron ore pellets and go to China. So there are a lot of possibilities. So what he will do, he will calculate all these cargoes against the ship and work out the best possible solution. The best possible solution which has the least exposure also, the least risk also in terms of weather, because weather is the biggest foul play what we get. So this is the job of the chartering manager. Once he has fixed the ship and he thinks that I'm going to make certain amount of profit in this voyage, he hands over the baton to the operations team. Now the operations team is the person who really executes the voyage. So this chartering team has most probably done the negotiation within a span of 4 or 5 hours or within a span of a day. This operation team people will ensure that everything goes as planned or better, but the span is more. It suddenly gets into 45 days because it involves loading operation, discharging operation, ballast that is going from going in empty condition from a port like Kandla to a loading port, and from loading port to the discharge port. So this in general takes about 30 to 40 days if the ship is kept within the regions of Indian Ocean. So the operation is responsible for execution, and the again operation is like something like heart. It controls everything. It knows everything. It controls the P&L, that is the profit and loss. It is responsibility. It does almost everything. One mistake in operation, maybe we'll not be able to find what mistake is. The money is gone. So the efficiency of the operation is not to do mistakes. At least doing something better is out of world. So operation job is to just meticulously perform what is planned. Then there is a person called broker or brokering. So he is the person who lies between this chartering, means the owner and the cargo. Usually they don't talk directly. So we always have people who will say, oh, I have seen this cargo, oh, I have seen this ship, and let's try to merge it. So this is the person who will facilitate the trade. Then comes the claim management. So claim management is basically when the operations is completed, the voyage has completed, then you have to start chasing for the money, or if the vessel has stayed more in the port, discussing with the charters on the demurrage claim that my vessel has stayed more, you need to pay me back. So that's all about claim management. It's a very, very important aspect, because even if operation has done everything perfect, the job is not done yet until the money is in your bank account. So the flow is the chartering person deals with the brokers, fixes a ship, the operation person extend that operations over 40-45 days, completes everything. Then the claims management takes over and they ensure that the claims are settled and the money comes into your pocket. But life is never easy. We always have disputes. And then comes the legal team. And this legal team will ensure, if there is a fight, if there is a dispute, ensure that the money comes back. They will fight the claim. Either internally they will discuss with the charters. If required, they will involve external lawyers also. And these lawyers really don't need to be from anyway from a merchant navy background. They are simple lawyers who know how to read a contract. Law is not about having a real experience on the ship. It's about how you really read that charter party. Weather performance, as I said, weather plays a very, very big role in the planning. So whatever this chartering guy has planned, let's say he thinks that my ship is going from point A to B, means let's say from Indonesia to India, where the sea margin is 5%. 5% sea margin means, let's say the Indonesia to India takes about 8 days of sailing. So he'll say, I will estimate half a day more for the weather, because nobody can predict weather, and let's say we get some amount of bad weather. So this is what he predicts. Then comes what operation does. So we have weather performance companies where people are just pure meteorologists who study the track of the ship, the position of the ship, how the weather is, and then they advise the ship what route has to be taken, where the vessel will get the best current, where the vessel will get the best winds, so that the voyage or the impact of the weather is least. Then very important is port cost management. Port cost management is something, when the ship is coming into a port, the agent has to pay the port the cost. So here also it's very important to manage this cost, discuss with the port that this tariffs can be reduced, because again, and it works both ways. If the tariffs are reduced, the profit is going to the owner, because he's managing within the budgets. And if the port is reducing the tariff, then there is an impact on the port, but it goes with the principle of volume versus. So if the port is doing volume and giving a reduction on the tariff, definitely the port is going to make money on the long term. Then there is one team which is called charter party management and claims. The entire all these 7 heads are actually controlled by charter party. So as I said, charter party is a contract between 2 entities, be it the vessel owner and the cargo owner. So there are a lot of charter parties like NIPE, New York Exchange, New York Product Exchange, 1993, 1995 versions, which are standard charter parties. For time charter means where the owner gives the vessel on time charter. Or voyage charter parties, there are a lot of charter parties like GenCon, Amwell, Skoll. There are a lot of standard charter parties. And over that, many of the traders, that is the cargo traders, they have their own customized charter party for their own trades. So this charter party management team will ensure at all stages, means even at the stage of chartering, that's the pre-fixture stage, that no clauses are such agreed that they will expose the company too much. Or if the clauses are agreed, what are the mitigation parts which need to be considered during the operational activity. And similarly, at operational activity or claims management or legal level, these charter parties are always open because that is the contract, that's the underlying contract. So these contracts are always open to see at how to eventually settle the claim. So this is something what I think is beyond the visible horizon of merchant navy, where we see what it is. I'll just touch very briefly on where India shipping is. And no need to read all the entire part because many of us just discussed this part. India is definitely growing in a big way. India is supplying a lot of officers and crew. I think India is within top third nations, Philippines and China being the top ones other than India, who are supplying ratings and crew to the ships. Just to give an insight, I mean, so 2010, we were up something about 73,000 Indian seafarers, which has gone to almost 230, 240,000 seafarers, which are manning the ships today. Running. And last slide, I would just devote it to the what lies in the mind of sailor who is standing on that bridge. The one is definitely the immediate job is to immediate execution of the watch with safety to ensure that the management on board of the vessel remains as what is instructed by the policies of the company. He definitely has the passion, and one thought always remains in the mind of seafarers of being away from its own family. So that's where I would like to end it, and thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Captain Alok, for wonderful presentation, giving us insight about merchant navy and beyond merchant navy. What are the other economic aspects which we can look after?
Yeah.
We will open this session for question and answer. Anybody has any question? If you can write in a chat box, please write in a chat box or raise your hand. We'll unmute you and you can ask the question to Captain Alok. We'll wait for a few minutes. Let somebody type. Meanwhile, Dr. Anuradha ma'am.
Yes, Mansi.
Yeah. Do you like to speak something?
Yeah, it was a wonderful lecture by Captain Alok Srivastav. And I think the students also got a perspective of the challenges and the both the challenges and the opportunities in the merchant navy sector. And it is, it's a bird's eye view which he's provided, an overview, an overarching view of the sector. And I'm sure this will also motivate many of our graduates to take this program. And also he has suggested some other institutions as well to take the occupation related to merchant navy. And I'm sure with the Sagarmala project of the Government of India and also the inland, the waterways policy of the government, this will also make end-to-end, cargo using, using the waterways from hinterland, from the innards of India to the peninsula, the coastal this and beyond. And that will really open up vistas of opportunities for our professional students who, who take professional, programs, who undertake programs and degrees in this sector. Thank you, Captain Alok Srivastava. It was really great. And I think I heard you at such a length for the first time. And it has been a great opportunity for me as well. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Yeah, we have a few questions. First from Ms. Purvi, 1 second. Okay.
Yeah, the Arctic, I think.
Yeah, Arctic.
Okay, I'll give you a brief. See, as of now, I mean, predominantly Arctic is basically icebound. So it is not easy for a normal ship to go over there. So usually we have ice class vessels which go to the icebound areas. But specifically Arctic, only one voyage has been actually done as of now because, and it's unfortunately, it's not a very good thing because the Arctic is melting down. and that gives a very big opportunity to the shipping. Let's say from Europe coming to Pacific Ocean, you have to either come via Suez Canal or go via the Cape of Good Hope or via Panama Canal. That's the only way. But with this ice melting in the Arctic, a company called Ollendorf has already tried a mission. They have actually sailed the ship through Arctic, and it reduces the sea passage almost to not more than 7-8 days, while it is almost 40 days. So that's a very big opportunity. But if you really ask me, I would not like that opportunity should come, because it will be a almost disaster for the earth.
Yeah, we have another question from Nagarajan. Or can you please brief on the future merchant ship opportunity post-COVID? So post-COVID, what are the opportunities merchant navy personnel will get? Because COVID situation was difficult for them.
Okay, in my perspective, things has actually not changed. The only problem what we had during the COVID was the cargo was anyway moving. Means if you see the cargo volumes, they definitely went down maybe by 5 to 7%, but still the ships were moving. Difficulties were there in terms of sign on, sign off, supplying spares, getting repairs done. So those were the problems. But as such, not much of opportunities have developed, specifically in terms of sailing on ships. Otherwise, I definitely don't see any specific opportunity which is beyond because of COVID. What is the worst? Okay, worst situational. Okay, worst if you ask me, and if you're really asking my personal one, okay, this is really personal. But the question is asked. I will go ahead with this question. And I think I can go ahead with a personal example. I think Dr. Anuradha.
Yes, sir. Can you repeat?
I can go ahead with a professional and personal environment. Somebody is asking the worst. Dev Prakash has asked worst situational event. So there means okay. The worst has been
Probably he's a bit
worried.
Thought about the risks. So
no, but I can actually I can relate to that, because there have been times. There are two ways. One is when you feel that really I am going to see tomorrow morning or not, and that has happened with me. To be honest, that has happened with me. My wife was on board at that time. We were together, and we were really thinking what is going to happen. I was actually fighting with the captain. I was second officer that time. That's about 15 years back. I was actually fighting with the captain, sir, let's go into this route. The weather will be better. But unfortunately, there were commercial pressure, and I know commercial pressure, how these are these days. So we really went through a bad weather patch, and the ship was rolling hell of a lot, almost going till 30 degrees. 30 degrees rolling means if the ship is like this, it goes almost 30 degrees on one side. Okay, the ships are designed in such a way, they're maintained in such a way that ship will come back. I had that confidence, but yes. So that is something on the risk aspect. On the professional aspects, the worst, I think what I faced was I was in US post this World Trade Center demolition or the incident. We were there, and there was one Filipino on board, and his US visa was expired. And unfortunately, US immigration were, with all due regards, they were very protective on those dates. They sort of blocked us. Nobody was allowed to go outside the ship. We had security guards on ship. So that was, I think, one of the worst what I have faced. Where do you rate?
Yeah. Where do you rate Indian Merchant Navy standing in international market? Also, what are the challenges in present scenario? And he thanks you for the enlightening the session. He gets a lot of input from your presentation, sir.
Thanks a lot. So
he is Air Force veteran, Balchandra Lade.
Okay, great. So where I rate Indian Merchant Navy standing, I will rate I will answer this from a perspective of the personnels. And we need to go back into history a bit, let's say even just 40 years back. At that time, Indian seafarers were not that much evolved. We used to have more of Europeans into the shipping. And suddenly the Indians evolved, and a lot of supplies of ratings and the officers started. And at that time, we were very good. Unfortunately, money is a factor. And that time we outnumbered or we outgrew the Europeans. What is happening today? Similar stories happening to us from countries like Philippines, Vietnam, and China. Means a Chinese is ready to work at a half a salary of what an Indian is asking today. Quality wise, I definitely vouch that Indians are very good. We perform much better under pressure. See, it's very easy to work when seas are calm. Calm seas don't make good seafarers. If the weather is bad, then only you'll fare out well. And similarly, if you have just worked on new ships, you will never know what a disaster is or what a breakdown is. So in that way, Indians have fared out very well. We really work a lot, much better under pressure. We comply a lot. We complain less. But unfortunately, in today's scenario, means if you really ask, Philippines and China is giving a lot of competition to us. So that's where the Indian Navy is, and those are the challenges. And if you ask commercially, I think Indian Navy from a merchant Navy perspective still has to evolve. With all due regards, we had Joshi ma'am here. Means SCI is there, which is a very old organization, but unfortunately, SCI has not performed to the levels of what contemporary foreign companies are performing. So I think we really need to stand up and do something about Indian shipping, specifically the commercial shipping, because it brings money. Means if you have good fleet, even Commodore said that unless you in case of emergency, if you don't have a good fleet, how you are going to support your nation? So I think it's really a lot is still pending to be done in the commercial space of Indian shipping.
Balchandra has said kudos to all Indian seafarers.
Yes, definitely. Yes, definitely. Yes. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So I have one question.
Yes, please.
How does merchant navy or commercial navy tackles the pirate situation?
Okay. So piracy, as we know, means one of the famous name is Somalia, and so that's the only means that's the famous name. But piracy has been a problem almost in many parts of the world. Africa, definitely, coast of Africa is a big issue. We had issues in Indian coast also. We have issues in Indonesian coast also. But how we manage it on board is, let's see, specifically the most visual one is that the ship is going and another small boat, a speedboat is chasing the ship, and the pirates are trying to come on board the ship. So what usually is done, one is we keep barbed wires rigged all along the length of the vessel, so that even if they are able to rig the ladder on the sides of the ship, they are not able to gain access to the ship. Then we keep fire hoses. Now these fire hoses are something like those the firefighters use. So we have these on ships, and the pressure is very high. So if you can just direct the jet on the boat, most probably they'll go away. Even if they get access to the ship, we sort of keep the accommodation locked so that they cannot come inside. Then these days, getting into Somalian waters where the risk of piracy is very high, we have armed guards on board. I mean, as per the regulations, the ships, merchant ships, are not allowed to keep firearms on board. But for these reasons where the piracy risk is very high, we keep armed guards on board, usually 3 in number, so they have their own weapons. So these are also used as deterrent to for the piracy. So this is how we do. And then even if all said and done, if pirates somehow gets board on the gets access to the ship accommodation, like what happened on the movie Captain Phillips, I mean, try to say it. So then you have to surrender. You can't fight. Means the standard mandated don't fight, don't try to. Means we are not heroes out there. We are commercial people. Yes, we these days a citadel is also made on a ship where everybody can just go inside and lock it. We have some certain sort of communication systems also there. Raise the alarm, so most probably somebody will come to the rescue. So a hard job, but that's how the shipping is.
Thank you for enlightening me with this query. So last question from my side.
Yes, yes.
What are the technological challenges or technological advances you want to do in the merchant navy?
Okay.
Commercial navy.
Technological advances, there a lot of things have actually changed. Means when I
Yeah.
was on ship, we used to have paper charts. Charts are basically those maps.
Yeah.
These days, these are electronics. So earlier we had radars which had normal CRT screen. Now these are LCD screens. We have integrated bridges. Means everything is integrated on the ship. Communication earlier days, it was very expensive. Maybe calling from ship to shore, it was almost, let's say, $2-3 per minute. Now it has gone a lot. WhatsApp is available on ship. Okay, the bandwidth is not that much, but WhatsApp chatting is there. People can watch Facebook. So a lot of technological advancements has already happened. If you're asking my dream, what has to be, the people are working on autonomous ships now. The green technology definitely is, which is much required. So these are, I think, autonomous ships are, which is something I'm looking forward, because even I think Norwegians have tried some coastal patches on the autonomous ship where they sailed a ship for about 70 miles, nobody on board. So I'm waiting for the day when they'll have an autonomous ship sailing across the Pacific Ocean, completing the voyage.
Yeah, hopefully, sir.
Is it?
Our CMS student or a maritime student will take up something like this to create an autonomous ship.
Yes, definitely.
The question is from Shirish. Is the diplomatic and consular assistance provided by local embassies sufficient in cases where seafarers are detained by foreign countries like Iran?
See, the answer is unfortunately not sufficient, but I would again add, let's not try to confuse, or there is a line between Indian Navy and Merchant Navy. Let's understand, we are doing business. Commercial is doing business, and it comes with a risk. So you have gone to Iran. I know you are. The person is a national of that. The country is an Indian national, and all assistance must be provided. But government also has its own diplomatic issues. Means government cannot just change the policies just for one person, and that to the person who is doing business. So I think we all appreciate that fact. But having said that, I have seen cases where appropriate consular and diplomatic assistance were provided, detained even countries like Iran. It has happened in countries like US. It has happened in countries like Brazil. So help is provided, but yes, the help is not appropriate enough. I think appropriate is not the correct word. I think the help is appropriate, but help, if you are asking, the help is utmost and the ultimate help, that is not possible. I mean, I'm not even asking for that, because we have taken that risk. We must appreciate that by calling a country where there is a risk, we have taken that calculation. Means if I'm working on ship and suddenly I'm told that I have to wake up in night and go and do this job, I cannot just say that it's my time to sleep. I have taken that risk. So we need to evaluate that risk and appreciate it, and while doing the job.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Thanks, Suresh.
Thanks, Shivastava. Thank you, sir, for your answer. Okay. So I don't think so, sir. Any more question? We will be getting. Okay. So with
thanks.
that, sir, I would like to once again thank you for your valuable time and giving insightful about the commercial navy, how the other commercial aspects of merchant navy takes up, and what are the other opportunities which is around the commercial navy, not on just a seafarer. They can be associated with the agency, they can be associated with the lawmaker or legal aspects. So that was really insightful from you, sir. Okay. So with that, we will conclude our first session of India's Maritime Prowess, a webinar on India's Maritime Prowess on the occasion of 59th National Maritime Day. All of us can meet at 2 p.m. for the lecture by Captain Rikesh Sharma on occupations in maritime sector. As Captain Alok has already shown us some aspect of where people can get occupied. Captain Rikesh Sharma will take over the what are other occupations like in the morning. Commodore Kesos has talked about the historical development. So how the even art laureate can take part in maritime sector. The commerce student can take part in maritime sector. Even what are the research aspects in maritime sector, scientific and technological aspects. So we will meet after the lunch break at 2 p.m. Once again, thank you, Captain Alok Srivastav, for your wonderful session and your precious time. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Captain Alok. It was indeed it was great to listen to you. I think an overview of Merchant Navy for us also, it was a learning information. Thanks a lot. And I urge all the participants to kindly join sharp at 2. We have one more excellent speaker who has also been an important part of the inception of CMAS. I think the first person I spoke to was Captain Rikesh Sharma when CMAS was conceptualized in the mind. And we will have the session of the Captain Rikesh Sharma from the Naval War College background from 2 o'clock on a very important topic of occupations, the job opportunities, and the various verticals in this domain of maritime and marine. So I urge everybody to kindly join sharp at 2 o'clock. Thanks a lot. Signing off now. Have your lunch. We'll join at 2 again. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, ma'am.
The link for the session will be the same. You can join in with the same link. After the Captain Rikesh Sharma, we have a prominent scientist, Dr. B.B. Nayak from CEFI. He is going to talk about how the fisheries industry has developed in India throughout the years. And he is the one of the scientists who has got a privilege to visit the Architect Circle. So don't miss his lecture also. Okay, the link will be the same which we have shared with you. Yeah, signing off for the day. Otherwise, you can stay in the same link. We will start at sharp 2 p.m. The certificates will be provided to all of you after the completion of session. We will share one feedback form. So after filling the feedback form, the certificate will be issued to all of you, all the participants. Okay. Thank you for the now. We'll sign off. I'll see you all the participants at sharp 2 p.m. Yes, ma'am.